This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist podcast. If you like what you're listening to, please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist podcast. Hello.
Good morning, Hemant.
Yes, it's very early for a Friday for us, but
I hate this.
I know, but we're going to talk about a whole bunch of very different stories based on the list I have here.
This is going to be a wild episode.
Let me start out with a sad story just because I don't know how I can work this in anywhere else. But Ed Brayton, who was a writer at Patheos, he helped start up free thought blogs, and he's been an activist with Foundation Beyond Belief. He's been part of the Panda's Thumb, which was an evolution website that was really big when intelligent design was a thing. He's been struggling with health problems for many years. Like his Facebook posts would be a lot of what's wrong with our medical system and how it's failing him. And so I've been watching kind of that happen for a long time. And he said earlier this week that he was calling hospice, that he knew the end was coming, and he just wanted to go as peacefully as he could. And yesterday morning, it was announced that he did pass away. And I guess the only, not silver lining really, but he did die peacefully. I did want to quote one thing that he said. He posted something a couple of days ago on his website. He was still in sound mind, able to write. He wrote down, I'm not afraid of death, but I am afraid to die painfully and with suffering. My hope is that hospice will put me on a morphine or a Dilaudid drip and knock me out so I don't feel anything, then I can slip away. And then he went on to say, I hope that's true. I don't know if that's what happened, but it appears that is what happened, so good. He wrote, my greatest hope is that after I'm gone, the world continues to be more fair, just, and equal. What else could we possibly hope for and work for? I urge you all to keep fighting the good fight for those core values. Don't be sad about this. Be hopeful. I got to make the decision myself and spare others from that awful task. I did it while still of sound mind, if not body. That means the world to me. I maintained my self-determination until the end. In closing, let me just say thank you again. You made my life better, richer, and more fulfilled, and who could ask for more? Goodbye, one and all. I will miss you, as I hope you will miss me. Be good to each other along this incredible journey. And I would add, if you didn't get a chance to know him, one, you missed out. One thing I remember that always makes me laugh is several years ago, there was a young high school activist, Jessica Alquist, who was fighting a battle to remove a religious plaque. And we did fundraising on my website to support her and all that. One of the things that happened during the course of that controversy was that her state senator in Rhode Island went on the radio and the radio host asked the guy, what do you think about that high school atheist, that girl who is fighting this battle? And he called her an evil little thing in the interview, which was a stunningly crazy thing for anyone to say. And people online made shirts that said evil little thing. They wore them at the time. They wore it at the Reason rally, which was happening that year. And I remember Ed decided to make a shirt for himself because he was a large man. And so it said evil big thing. And there's a picture, if you Google it online, you'll find it. But it's a picture of Ed and Jessica together with Ed's evil big thing shirt. He was just, he was a good guy. And it's one of those things that you saw coming for a while now. And it happened so quickly at the very end, but I knew he was struggling for a long time. And I just have to say, if you've been influenced at all by online atheism, or if that was your pathway into questioning your faith or anything, there was a really good chance that you were reading something that Ed Brayton helped develop or create, because he was always behind the scenes when it came to this sort of thing. I can't tell you how many people, when he started free thought blogs with like PZ Myers, and at least a couple of other people, like they brought in so many people to write about this stuff. And again, he did all of that very quietly behind the scenes, and his website was also a great place for news stories. He was a great poker player, a stand-up comedian. there's a picture I saw of him when he was a local reporter appearing on Rachel Maddow's show from like a decade ago. Just a nice guy, and I'm sorry to lose him. And that's a loss for a lot of people who care about the sort of thing that we do. So I just wanted to say thank you to him. And for anyone who doesn't know him, Ed Brayton, Google him, find his stuff because it's worth reading for sure. So just wanted to put that out there. And now we could talk about other stuff.
Thanks, Evan.
Yeah. Let's, I don't even know where to go from here. Let's talk about John MacArthur. This guy, this pastor in California, we've talked about him before because California has a COVID problem like everyone does. And one of the things they did is they had restrictions on in-person gatherings. And the rule that is in place in Los Angeles County is that if you are holding an in-person gathering, you have to limit it to either 100 people or 25% of a building's capacity. And for his megachurch, that means 25% is a lot of people. So 100 people is the limit at his megachurch. And for John MacArthur, he's like, no, I'm going to hold my large megachurch services. And the county officials are like, dude, you can hold them outside. We will let you hold it outside. Mm-hmm. You know, do your social distancing, do mass. And he's like, no, I want it inside. He even went on to say that anyone who complied with the law was being disobedient to our Lord's clear commands. And by the way, there have been a couple of megachurch preachers, at least big popular ones, who have said, you know what, we're not opening our building until at least January. For the rest of the year, we're going to stay closed. John MacArthur said of them, they don't know what a church is and they don't shepherd their people. Like, he is trashing any pastor who has any concern for their congregation's health. And what happened this week is that after weeks of John MacArthur holding like mega church services for thousands of people without masks, without social distancing, the county, first of all, his church filed a lawsuit against the county for their restrictions. Mm-hmm. And they're like, you allow protests, but you don't allow our church to meet, even though those are not the same thing by any stretch of the imagination. And now the county has countersued, saying like, screw you, you're breaking the law. So we absolutely are going to hold you in contempt of our public health orders. So that's where we're at right now. They are in this legal battle over it. And I'm astounded by I'm not surprised because it's happening all the time, but the idea that a pastor would think that a restriction that is meant to protect public health is really all about violating his religious freedom is just so selfish and so dangerous. He says in response, like, well, no one in my church has contracted the virus yet.
Well, yet is an operative word.
And it's not like you're testing anybody. We don't know if that's true. And unfortunately, by the time we find out if that's true, it may be too late.
This whole thing has really turned grown men into the toddlers I knew they always were. It is so truly wild to see these grown-ass adult human people literally say, like, you can't hold me, you're not my mom. Like, that's what this feels like to me. It is resisting any guidance. It's a mistrust of authority. It's so fucking juvenile. Because a lot of people are just not wearing masks or not doing the things just to not do them, just for the sake of being able to say, like, nobody tells me what to do. This is America. And it's embarrassing for them. It is going to be a wild chapter in history when we find out that most Americans are utter monsters. I mean, we knew that across history, but it's really going to be fun to have the like Twitter and Facebook records for the rest of time, knowing that when we say, hey, a lot of people are dying, could you do this one very small thing or minorly change your life? People lost their fucking minds. And now we're going to hit 1 million people dead or what the fuck ever.
It is on social media, but you can bet people are going to delete the shit out of all this stuff as soon as. So, like, Facebook won't record it. You take screenshots.
Oh, I take
people in your
screenshots.
life. Yeah.
Like you wouldn't believe.
By the way, one thing that was really, again, not surprising, but just you should all know this, is that John MacArthur's ministry, when the government said, we will offer you money to help pay your staff during the pandemic, at least for the first couple months of it, his ministry received, and we only get a range here, we don't have an exact amount, but they received between $1 and $2 million in PPP loans to pay their staff when they couldn't meet in person. And at that point, it's like, yes, let us listen to the government. They are helping us out. And now the local government's like, please don't meet, therefore you won't hurt people. And they're like, how dare you try to tell us anything? Why would you help us now? His ministry makes more than $20 million a year. That's why. That is why I think he is so eager to meet in person, because you can't collect that sort of money when you don't have that peer pressure right in front of you.
It is. Do you remember when Trump said we were going to open on Easter?
Was that before or after he said the whole thing would disappear and 0 people would die?
Both before and after. He said it a few times. God, the religious rights need to be persecuted is truly a thing to behold. Like, as if they took the tiniest step outside their bubble or whatever and realized that, like, mosques and temples are all doing the same fucking thing as you. Like, it's just...
It shouldn't be that complicated.
I can't, and I won't, and I don't, and I won't.
So along the same lines, there was a story this week that caught my attention from the Elmbrook School District. This is in Wisconsin, and they were having a board meeting to decide whether to open school back up 5 days a week for in-person learning. And so before they voted on that, they had their school board meeting. Of course, there's room for public comment. And one lady decides to speak during public comment. She spoke for a long time, to the point where the school board is like, your time is up, ma'am. And she's like, excuse me, you got to speak, so I'm going to speak. They're on the board. She is not. That's why. Anyway, so after her time is up, here is among the things she is saying. 6 foot distance and masks are pagan rituals of satanic worshipers. She goes on. Absorb that in. 6 feet. Where does 6 feet come from, people? Why is it not 3? Why is it not 5? Why is it not 10? Why is it not 30? Why is it 6? I'm almost done. We've been patient listening to all of you, so I'll finish quickly. Thank you. We are Christians. Our children do not practice satanic worship. We don't have them stand 6 feet apart from each other with facial coverings. I will spare you the rest of her speech because it goes on like this for a while.
I just came up with a theory, and I want you to hear me out. Okay. Yeah. You know how the Bible is sort of garbage myths that people interpret however they want to?
I've heard of this.
Do you think that because people who take the Bible very seriously have had to pour through this book and find, like, the double meanings of, like, oh, he said this, which means he means that. Mm-hmm. And that's why anything they hear, they have to, like, put through, like, 5 filters of, like, well, I know people don't.
When God said he created the world in 6 days, he meant 6 light years. I know this because.
Right. Exactly. So, like, they no longer possess the ability to just, like, read something and say, okay, that's what that thing says. Nobody's trying to give me a secret special code. And so when anybody's like, okay, 6 feet, face masks, they're like, 6 feet. I've heard of this before.
This is satanic. I knew it. Yeah, it's like not everything.
All of my suspicions have been confirmed.
Not everything is a QAnon code. I just imagine, like, a beautiful mind, and, like, I'm looking at a magazine and every sudden lines all connect. Like, they're all sending me a code. It's like, no, just we don't want you coughing on other people. Just stand away from each other. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Because I swear to fucking God, in some way, this is about me, and I'm going to find it.
Okay, here's the sad part. It was very clear listening to this school board meeting that pretty much everyone on the school board is like, lady, you're crazy. Shut up. But after she was done, and I'm not saying it's because of her, I'm just saying this is what they were going to do anyway. they decided to vote to open school back up 5 days a week for in-person learning. Yes, with social distancing. Yes, with masks. And yes, that is still the stupidest thing they could possibly do because kids are not going to follow all the rules. People will get sick.
Disgusting.
Kids are disgusting when there's no pandemic. And during the pandemic, you think they're going to suddenly become hygienic and take all these right precautions?
Have we talked about the school districts being like, well, we can't enforce mask regulations on our students? Have you heard about that? Because as somebody who had to measure my skirt to make sure it went past my fingers when I was 12.
Somehow they're all on top of that.
Yeah, that they're super cool with. My friend wore spaghetti straps and you could kind of see her bra and she got sent to the principal. They're like, whoa, we'd hate to violate these children's bodily autonomy. It's very important that we respect them and how they want to express themselves via their clothes and their appearance.
The one-time conservatives don't want to tell someone what to do with their bodies.
It's truly a thing to behold, my friend. I've lost, I think, all faith in everything. So that's sort of where I am now, personally.
Your atheism has come full circle.
Yeah, I think I'm full-on nihilist now.
Yeah, there you go. Here is some actual good news. Genuinely exciting good news. Because this person was not on my radar until this week. And now I'm like, how the hell did I not know about her? So there is a Wisconsin candidate who was up in the primary earlier this week. Wisconsin held their primary for state office, and her name is Kelda Roys. And the reason I don't know about her is because for the past several years, she has not been in government. But let me tell you a little bit about her history. She was elected in 2008 to basically Wisconsin's version of the state house. And she was a state representative for a good 4 years. She served in leadership roles. And in 2012, she decides she wants to run for Congress. So she has to resign her seat and run for Congress. And she ended up losing in the Democratic primary to a guy named Mark Pagan, who is currently the congressman from Wisconsin, who is actually awesome. He's actually a member of the Congressional Free Thought Caucus. He's not an atheist, but he's one of those yep, I'm totally one of your allies. So that's awesome. So no issue with that. But she lost her seats and she was awesome. And it was a safe seat. So damn it. But she leaves. In 2013, she decides to start her own business. And then in 2018, when Scott Walker is the governor of Wisconsin and things are not good, she decides to run for governor to unseat him in 2018. And one of her ads before the Democratic primary, she posts a campaign ad where she's talking about policy and why, she has daughters. She wants to run for office in part for them. And I guess while they were shooting that commercial, her baby needed to be breastfed. And so, Kelda Roys basically breastfeeds the baby as the cameras are still rolling and still talks about policy.
Oh, cool.
Doesn't miss a beat. And actually, the ad they ended up running is literally that. It's just her I'm talking about policy. I'm talking about, all right, take care of my baby. All right. So as I was saying, and she just rolls with it. And it's great. She actually went viral with that ad because here's a real working mother trying to do this. And it's amazing. Now, she ended up losing that primary. She took third place in the Democratic primary that year to Tony Evers, who actually became the governor. Very narrow race. He became governor. But did she stop there? No, she didn't. And now it's 2020, and she decides, because she has been out of politics for a while, she decides that her state senator, Fred Risser, who, if you don't know him, he was in the state legislature in Wisconsin for 64 years. And he decides now, you know what? I think I'm going to retire now. So he is retiring. His district is the bluest of blue districts, encompassing a part of Madison, Wisconsin, and the university in that town. So she decides, all right, I'm going to run to become state senator to take Fred Risser's old seat. And now it's a 7-way primary. That is what happened this week. She crushed that field. It was a plural. She won a plurality of the votes. But let me tell you about how she's running this. This is why I'm really interested in this particular race. One, there's no Republican running against anybody. They know how blue this place is. So whoever wins the primary is effectively going to be the state senator. It's a formality. But let me tell you some of her biography. A former member, like I said, of the Wisconsin State Assembly, executive director of NARAL Pro-Choice Wisconsin, a board member of the ACLU of Wisconsin.
Yes,
she said she is a supporter of church-state separation. And let me read you this direct quote. My experience as an atheist, an attorney, and a staunch ACLU supporter means I respect religion's role in private life, but reject its role in public policy or government. Religious views should not make law.
Dang.
And so she won her race. She has no opposition anymore because there's no Republican there. She is, barring something weird, she is going to be their state senator very soon. But just an amazing candidate all around. I will say the one thing is, even though there is a Democrat in the governor's mansion right now, the legislature, Wisconsin, is known for having the most gerrymandered state offices in the country. So yes, she's a Democrat in the state Senate, but this is the state where you can win 49% of the votes and get 99% of the seats. I exaggerate just a little bit. So Republicans dominate the legislature, but still an amazing candidate of an incredible victory. And that's really exciting. And just piggybacking off of that, I have been keeping a list of the candidates who are openly non-religious. And because all the primaries are just about done, I got a running total for you right now. Okay. How many openly non-religious candidates are on the ballot in November? Obviously, a lot of these are state lawmakers, but I'm just talking state house, state senate, or Congress. How many people do you think are running for Congress as openly non-religious?
So this is on all levels?
All U.S. Congress in their respective districts.
100?
Oh, I wish. But non-religious, they won their primaries already.
Oh.
And they are the Democratic candidates in their congressional district, and they're openly non-religious. Remember, Jared Huffman is the only humanist in Congress. Jamie Raskin from Maryland is I say humanist in big quote fingers because he uses the word Jewish to describe himself, but he is a humanist. But then there are 6 other candidates on the ballot who are openly non-religious, including one atheist, Aaron Godfrey in Ohio, who are on the ballot. So interesting. Again, hard races to win, but amazing. Yep. Okay,
now when you make me guess things. I'm bad at guessing.
Sorry, that's okay.
You make me look like a fucking fool in front of our listeners.
That is my goal. Okay, there are 15 people on the ballot to become state senators, Kelda Roys being one of them, like we just mentioned. And there are 65 people running to be state legislators, state house members in their respective states. Both of those numbers are higher than I think I've ever seen before. There are still, New Hampshire has, I'm pretty sure 300 atheists on the ballot for their primary next week, or September 8th is their primary. But so those numbers I just told you will go up, but there's a good chance a lot of these people will be elected. And again, just because you're atheist doesn't mean you're a candidate I will automatically like. But I will tell you, every one of these candidates is a Democrat. There isn't anybody else on this list. And as far as I can tell, their policies are pretty damn solid across the board. Cool. So if you're thinking being an atheist, even if it's legal, even if it's legal to run, being an atheist is like a deal breaker for politics. There's a whole bunch of people across the country who are showing that is not true.
That's awesome.
And if I could say just one more thing about politics before I move on to a different topic, which is there is a group that is brand new that you listeners may be interested in. This is not an ad. I'm literally just telling you because I think this is awesome. It's called the Secular Democrats of America. Oh. It is basically the whole goal. Let me tell you some of the things they care about. Church-state separation, ending faith-based neglect of children. So no, I'm praying for my kids' health. Oh, they died. I'm off the hook.
Sure.
Promoting civil rights that don't permit religious discrimination. Advocating for healthcare that is free of religious exemptions. Mobilizing non-religious voters. Fighting for actual religious freedom. Pushing for reason-based policies. Respecting atheists in the military instead of pretending there are no atheists in foxholes. All of that stuff is what this group cares about. And the person who is kind of their organizer for stuff, her name is Sarah Levin, who used to work with the Secular Coalition for America. And on Tuesday of next week, August 18th, she put together like an inaugural event for this group called like Make America Constitutional Again. She has Jared Huffman, congressman, atheist, Jamie Raskin, congressman, Athena Salmon, who's a state representative, Carlos Guillermo Smith from Florida, who is a non-theistic congressman. She has Ann Druyan, who wrote Cosmos with Carl Sagan and the producer of The Reboot. Lots of people who are doing this Zoom event the week of the Democratic convention. Amazing group to get together. And really, what amazes me is just like, these are two words that as much as I want to see together, like Democrats, you should be reaching out to us. She's saying, well, guess what? We're here and we're reaching out to you. And we are trying to mobilize people to vote for Joe Biden in the election. And like, and we don't care if you like it or not. We're getting our shit together. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested,
you don't need your permission anymore.
Exactly. I'll post a link if anyone's interested. It's a free event if you want to watch it. But man, I hope that amounts to something bigger, but it has to start somewhere. So it's starting. It's great. Whew. All right.
All right. What now? Take
your pick.
Can I do my feel good story?
Feel good. Yes.
I don't get to do this very often. So in Colorado, there is a gentleman named Kenneth Feltz. He's from Arvada, Colorado, and he, when quarantine started, decided to start writing his memoirs. He's 90 and just wants to chronicle his life. And he said, and so as he was writing, he realized that he needed to include all of his life. And so at the age of 90, he came out to his friends and family. He said he knew he's gay since he was 12.
Wow.
But he said he made the choice to conceal his sexuality because he grew up during a time when homosexuality was both frowned upon and illegal. He wanted to make sure he could include his one true love, Philip. So he came out to his daughter through a Facebook post, and he wrote, "I am gay, I am out, I am free." So...
Wow, good for him.
Yeah,
I wish he felt comfortable doing it earlier, but the fact that he's still willing to do it now is amazing.
Yeah. He said that he realized he was gay when he was fairly young, but he was taught in his devout Christian family that homosexuality was a sin. He told CNN, "I just knew that if I were to come out as gay, I would probably go to hell. I was going to the grave with my secret," which is... man, if that isn't an argument against Christian bullshit, it's, I don't know, man.
Good for him, though.
Yeah. It
hopefully,
really
because people like him are speaking out, more people will push to, hopefully it makes it easier. It has become easier over time, I would think, compared to what he went through. Mm-hmm. But this is a battle religious conservatives haven't won. They're not going to win. The only question is how many more people they just want to make suffer.
Yeah, yes, you're exactly right. He lived in California, which this article points out, the sodomy law wasn't repealed until 1975. And he met his long-term partner, Philip Jones, and they ended up breaking it off because, quote, ultimately the burden of being gay in a society where it was considered a crime became too much for Feltz, and he decided to break it off with Jones.
Aww.
So it's, I'm glad he can come out now, but having to wait until you are 90 years old to be honest with your friends and family because of a religious burden you were given as a kid is maybe not a great advertisement for raising kids in a Christian household.
Yeah, really. Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What is WAP?
Okay, I am not crazy about the fact that I am the one who has to explain.
I literally said,
WAP
Jessica,
is.
please explain this so I don't have to.
Well, and I said I would only do it if I also got to dunk on Ben Shapiro for a while. So like
you are always free to dunk on Ben Shapiro.
So WAP is Wet Ass Pussy. It is a song by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, and it dropped last Friday, so a week ago today. And it is a song very much celebrating women's sexuality and discussing sex in frank terms and in a way that is focused on these two women's desires and wants and requests from men. And we, as a society, aren't necessarily used to that. And so, yeah, so it became this song. It like fucking blew up immediately. I woke up and it was trending on Twitter, and I was like, I don't know what this is, and I don't feel like I should, but I looked it up. It's great. Excuse me.
My favorite part is Ben Shapiro reading the lyrics of it. It's saying how horrible this song is.
Which actually reminds me of a goof that the McElroy brothers did like 5, 6, 7 years ago, where they read all the lyrics to Pony by Genuine. Which it turns out those lyrics are also buck wild. It's just,
and none of those, it's not written to be like elegant poetry.
Said aloud. So
I'm trying to imagine what the whitest song is, where if you read the lyrics, like they would make absolutely no sense, even though everyone knows the song and everyone sings it.
I was thinking more along the lines of the songs that if we've heard for so long, and then all of a sudden if we pay attention to the lyrics, shit gets a little whack. Like the song Young Girl, Get Out of My Mind. My love for you is way out of line. Better run, girl. You're much too young, girl. That's it. I just knew that off the top of my dome because I love oldies. Young Girl song it is by Gary Puckett and the Union Gap. 1968. And so men have been creeps for as long as we've been recording music.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there are a lot of think pieces. Teen Vogue has a really, really good one about how men tend to be the arbiters of sex. Let me see if I can find the quote that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I want to know what, since we're dunking on Ben Shapiro.
Oh, yeah, we can do that right now.
Let's talk about whatever he said, but while I'll cue you up for it, because there's a congresswoman conspiracy theorist running for nothing because she lost. She tried to take on Nancy Pelosi and got destroyed. Her name is Deanna Lorraine. She said Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion just set the entire female gender back by 100 years. There's a congressional candidate named James Bradley who said Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are what happens when children are raised without God and without a strong father figure. My favorite part of his tweet, their new song, The WAP, and then in parentheses, which I heard accidentally, makes me want to pour holy water in my ears, and I feel sorry for future girls if this is their role model.
How do you hear that? How do you hear it accidentally? That's wild. Like they're not playing it on like Light FM or whatever radio station she's listening to.
There was an Onion article headline, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's like, why won't these gay guys just stop sucking my cock or something? It's like you can just say stop. You don't have to listen. You don't have to do anything. Like, which I heard accidentally and could not stop playing on my computer.
Yeah. So there's a really good quote I want to read kind of in response to what Ben Shapiro says. And genuinely the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen is this tweet that he sent out. This is Ben Shapiro. As I also discussed on the show, my only real concern is that the woman involved, who apparently require a, quote, bucket and a mop, get the medical care they require. My doctor, wife's differential diagnosis, bacterial vaginosis, yeast infection, or trichomoniasis. So his wife is telling him that if a woman's vagina is wet, she is ill in some way, which is not a great peek into their sexual life.
I mean,
makes me so uncomfortable.
The best faith interpretation of what he's actually trying to say is he's saying, sure, women get wet, but if it's too wet, that's a problem. And that's my only concern here. My wife agrees with me that women can't get too wet. That's a medical condition. And everyone dunked on him like crazy.
It's been... Dean Gloucester said Ben Shapiro reporting that his MD wife told him she's never gotten wet during the relationship, except as a result of vaginal infection is, how do I put this dryly? In retrospect, perhaps the world's most predictable cell phone. It's been so funny. Like, I love nothing more than dunking on Ben Shapiro. He's like a gross idiot.
I think my favorite part of this is when there's a song about sex that is overtly sexual, and to have all these conservatives and Christians who hate talking about that, even when it's in a more medical context, like sex ed in schools or something, and they can't even deal with it then, for them to be like, let me explain to you why this song is problematic. And you realize they couldn't even talk about it in regular terms.
Right.
And they're trying, and then you have Ben Shapiro like, let me tell you what's wrong with this. Because he would be mad if it was just, if a sex ed course in high school said, yeah, if you're horny, then women, you will get wet or something. Like, he wouldn't be okay with that sort of thing either.
No.
And so for them to use that line of argument against a song like this and to put those together is hilarious.
It's so good. And I want to read a passage out of this Teen Vogue article, which, by the way, did you have Teen Vogue as the best journalism outlet of our generation in your bingo card? Because I didn't.
What did they say?
Criticizing and suppressing women who harness their sexualities and discuss it in frank, even vulgar terms is a part of a long history of policing women's sexuality. So no, it's not surprising that some men are threatened when women display and celebrate their sexuality. It's unfortunately to be expected. Women's sexuality has long been a threat to cisgendered men, which we can trace even as far back as the Bible. In the story of Adam and Eve, women are painted as a temptress who will lead to the destruction of man, as illustrated by Eve taking a bite of forbidden fruit. Women's sexual desires were to be controlled, or the women displaying the desires outside the, quote, norm were to be punished. During the Salem witch trials, promiscuity was one of many potential signs of a witch. So women have been forever and still are living in this weird liminal space that if we are not overtly sexual enough, we're considered prudish. But if we embrace our sexuality even a little bit, we're sluts and whores and disrespectful. So women have always had to walk this line of being sexy because you don't want to be a prude, but not too sexy because no one will take you seriously if you're a slut. And everything we do, we have to understand is processed through the male gaze. So it's not even if I wear X and I think it I wear it for this reason. I have to process okay, I'm wearing a sports bra and running pants because it's hot out when I'm or whatever. I have to then process that through, am I being displaying my body in a way that men are going to criticize me or judge me for? And we internalize that. It's a whole fucking mess. So
I am waiting. No, go ahead.
In short, women's sexuality is constantly being policed and judged. And I love that this one is so frank and so explicit that it's yeah. Women also have sex. You know that you have had sex with women, most men. Anyway, go ahead.
I can't wait for a conservative pastor sometime this weekend to be like, let me tell you the exact milliliters of wetness women should be, and try to pass that off as if it's a scientific thing. What I'm really amazed by the fact that these people have a problem with women voluntarily, like, talking about their wet pussies. But when Donald Trump grabs them, it's a non-issue for these people.
It's fine.
They care more about what women do voluntarily than what he does forcefully.
I think the thing that made me laugh hardest this week, and I don't even know where I saw that, but it was just like youth pastor turns around chair, straddles it. You know who else had a wet ass pussy? Jesus.
Gotta find a way to bring it back.
Strong youth pastor energy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh man. So let's talk about Robert Jeffress to go on the other direction entirely. The pastor was on Fox News this week, and one of the things he said, here's what he wanted to say. Democrats are godless. He's trying to tell the Fox News crowd Democrats are godless. But how do you do that when Joe Biden is like a devout Catholic and Kamala Harris is a Baptist and pretty much all Democrats are religious? Here's what he said, and I'm quoting. It's no coincidence that 70% of atheists identify as Democrats and only 15% as Republicans. The Democrat Party has become a godless party.
Yeah, we have.
Which is bad math. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why he's lying.
Okay.
It is accurate to say 70%, roughly 70% of atheists identify as Democrats. That's based on a 2014 survey. I would guess now it would be even higher for atheists specifically. But when you actually, like, you could say 100% of atheists identify as Democrats, it does not mean the Democrats are a godless party. Like that same study that he is citing said 84% of Democrats believe in God in some capacity. That's the survey he cited, but he doesn't know how to do math, so he twisted it around.
This feels like one of those, like, squares are like all squares are pretty rectangles, but all rectangles aren't squares.
Yeah, his logic is wrong. Like, just because atheists are liberal doesn't mean the Democratic Party is overrun by atheists. Like, I wish that were true. That's not true.
Don't threaten you with a good time.
And the thing is, like, here's what I don't get. I think, because I've seen this guy do his thing for a long time, I'm pretty sure Robert Jeffress knows how math works. I'm pretty sure he knows how to twist that because he does it the other direction all the time.
Are you accusing him of being intellectually dishonest, Hammond? Because I will not hear that.
Exactly. I know. I'm saying it. I can't believe I'm saying it of Robert Jeffress. Brave. And yet, I think he knows what he's doing, and he's doing it anyway. And by the way, Liberty University, when we left off last week, as we closed up, Jerry Falwell had just been suspended, taken a leave of absence from Liberty University.
Yeah, we broke that news.
We did. And now, I just want to say, Liberty University was founded by Jerry Falwell Sr., who was famously anti-gay. It was taken over by Jerry Falwell Jr., the one we've all come to know and not love. And he's the one who has just taken his leave of absence. So guess who's taking over for his spot?
Tell me.
It's an anti-gay dude named Jerry. It's a guy named Jerry Prevost, who is the chairman of the school's board of trustees. He's a former Baptist preacher for like 50 years, and he's anti-gay as well. He said in
want to have to change the nameplates.
Pretty sure.
Let's find another like homophobic Gary.
I've read a lot of articles about how when Jerry Falwell would walk on campus, students would just call him Jerry because he's one of the dudes, which is not a sign of a healthy campus by any stretch of the imagination. But now they can keep doing that. But Jerry Prevost has said when the Boy Scouts finally allowed gay people to attend meetings and run meetings and stuff, he said, well, our church will not allow the Scouts to meet here. And he said, no homosexual will enter the kingdom of God.
Cool.
He also blamed public school education for the reason people now accept homosexuality. And of course, he's anti-trans and very transphobic. And here's what I don't get. Like, I get why they needed someone to take Jerry Falwell's place. I get why they would choose a guy who's the chair of their school's board of trustees. But as we have said many times, the school's problem is not just Jerry Falwell. It's the culture that Jerry Falwell created on campus, where like dissent is not allowed, where it's completely authoritarian. It's a private school. They're allowed to do whatever they want. But to replace Jerry Falwell with the Falwell clone does not change the larger problems on campus. And to me, this is just showing the school's leaders do not care about what Jerry Falwell did. No. They don't care. They care about the bad headlines, but they don't care about the culture. So nothing will change. Like what they're basically doing is saying, hey, old guy named Jerry, take a spot for a year. That way Jerry Falwell has time to pretend like he's getting therapy, and then he can come back and write his memoir that says, I've changed. And he could start working on that now so that a year from now he can come back and say, I'm a new man. And he'll then become the fourth head of the school named Jerry.
Great. No, that's good. I have no problems with that. No notes.
Do you like Kamala? Are we good with Kamala?
I'm excited about Kamala. I understand she doesn't have a flawless record, but she's very progressive. She has shifted her beliefs and policies to the left, which I appreciate. She used to be against marijuana legalization, and now she is pro at the very least, or pro decriminalization at the very least.
There was a public defender, I forgot which outlet, but a public defender when she was the district attorney, so opposite sides of the courtroom there. The public defender wrote an article saying she was and is like the most progressive DA that I faced, which goes against the narrative in a lot of liberal circles that she's basically on the side of cops. That's a bad thing right now, etc.
Right. And I don't think we should be not critical of our politicians, but, scrolling around kind of leftist Facebook and Twitter has been a strong bummer. Like it truly bums me out when I saw a white dude post like, oh, they're picking, it's an old perv and a cop. Like, what an uninspired ticket. And it's like, well, the Democratic Party is currently running the most progressive platform they ever in history. We, for the first time, have a woman of color tapped to be a VP for a major candidate. She's a child of immigrants. She's brilliant. I cannot wait for the VP debates. It's a week after my birthday, and I thank them for this wonderful birthday present. I took a day to just kind of be pleased, and we don't get a lot of good news, and I really tried to avoid the Kamala's at cop. Did you see what's his face refused to pronounce her name correctly? Who was it?
Tucker
Carlson. Like he literally wouldn't.
While a guest is telling him, it's like comma, literally the grammar mark. It's a comma. Kamala Harris's office softball team in the Senate is the Oxford Kamalas.
So good.
But anyway, that's how you pronounce it. They're telling this to Tucker Carlson, and he's still like, I don't care. Kamala is blah, blah, blah.
It's
which not... every brown person is like, I've seen people like you my whole life.
I saw a tweet that was like, all the brown parents out there are like, oh, you're running for VP. Why not president?
Love it. I did tell my daughter, look, it looks like you. And then she looked for about a second and then went back to doing whatever it is she does on an iPad.
Well, it's hard to inspire the youth,
I will say, like with Obama, there's no one who Joe Biden could have selected that these people that were complaining on the Democratic side, there's nobody that would have satisfied them. I say that as an Elizabeth Warren supporter like you. Like, they could have chosen Elizabeth Warren and they would have been like, yeah, we like her policies, but she's not electable. They would have had shit on everybody. So I'm not bothered on that front because there's always shit on the side. And you have to think the people vetting her and the people working for the VP, like picking selection committee, they weighed all of this information. If they thought for a second, we know her downsides are going to be enough of a problem that we shouldn't do it. Like, of course they looked at all that stuff. But here's one thing to think about. When Obama was running for office, he was not, and I'm talking 2008 here for president, he was not in support of marriage equality. And there were a bunch of liberals who were like, screw it. Why bother voting? Him, McCain, it doesn't make a difference because, look, you're just getting a not someone who doesn't support it. And there were also people in the same camp who were like, it's Barack Obama. He's from Chicago. Of course he supports gay marriage, but he can't say that out loud because whatever reason. And of course, even after he got elected, he didn't say it immediately. But when he actually had the ability and the tide had clearly turned, he was able to do it and it wasn't an issue. And my hope is that now if Kamala Harris is in a position where she's not up for election and it's not a controversial position anymore on a variety of issues, marijuana legalization, criminal justice issues, that she might have been on the wrong side of issues because she was on them in the past.
Right.
She no longer has to defend that stuff. And she could say, you know what? I did this. I thought it was best at the time. And now I've learned more. I'm not supportive of that stuff. And like you said, like she is one of the more progressive Democrats in the Senate. Like I think she has like a 93% same voting record as Bernie Sanders. And I forgot what the substantive portion of that is, but it's not nothing. And again, if you put her on the ticket, there is a good chance she could become. I don't buy the people who are like, she won't change. You're electing a moderate person and she won't become more progressive. I disagree completely.
I disagree on both of those points.
When she is in office, she has the leeway to go more to the left and push people to the left. And dude, if she's coming from a background that is African-American and Indian and coming from liberal circles as she is in California, you have to think she's well aware of what the progressive positions are, and she probably agrees with a lot of them, and she will have the leeway to say that. I don't think it's fair to just hold her to what she did in the past and say that defines everything about her, because I hate to say it, but there are political calculations these people make beforehand. Joe Biden had a lot of things. He's been in politics forever. What do you want to judge him on? What he screwed up with the Clarence Thomas hearings, or who he's going to appoint to the Supreme Court to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Right.
I'm all for that. Let's judge him by that, because that matters.
Yeah. I think the other problem that I have seen kind of running in far left circles, which I don't disagree on almost any of their politics, but I also think that you have to take a step back and remember that, like, we all want these very progressive politics, but Bernie Sanders didn't get the nomination because there just isn't enough support for it at the moment. And like, that sucks, but we also can't force what we think is best onto the population, because that's,
unless we're in office, which we're not.
But even if we are in office, like once President Bernie Sanders or whomever got into office, they still had to like pass bills through, like shit just doesn't magically change. So I think I understand that incremental change is not sexy and it's not what we're like stoked about. But unfortunately, like at some point you have to deal with the reality of like, my dad is voted for Democrat the first time in 2016. And he was like, fuck Bernie, but he's going to vote for Joe Biden. Like, I understand it's not fun to like lean to the center, but we need to win this election and then push the hell, pressure them.
Right, at least, unlike Trump, they have enough people working for them who do have an ear to the ground on this stuff. They do want to appeal. They know the future of the Democratic Party is moving left. It is to their advantage to shift positions.
Isn't Kamala's press secretary Bernie Sanders' old press secretary or something?
Something. She worked for Bernie for sure. Yeah. But so again,
I trust, like, if Bernie's people are going to Kamala or going to Joe, like, I trust that is a good sign for what we're looking for. Not to mention the fact that, like, Kamala, like, tore Joe Biden apart in the debates. And instead of cowering away from that, Joe Biden is like, no, I need people like that on my staff who disagree with me.
If Mike Pence did that, he wouldn't be vice president right now.
Absolutely not.
And I'm only saying that to say, like, yes, I hope she gets more progressive. I'm not saying this, like, I'm not just saying this. I think she will get more progressive, and she is more progressive than she gets credit for. But also, I'm just saying, like, not my first choice, not my second choice for either position.
Right.
But also, it's not that bad. It could be way worse. And again, if they are in power and have the ability to appoint a gazillion other positions of power, who are they going to appoint? And there's good reason to think there are a lot of smart progressive people. And to point and say like, well, he's cozy with Wall Street. Yeah, probably. But there will be a lot of good that comes from the other positions. And you know what? If he does do something you don't like, I would so much rather criticize him from the inside than whatever the hell is going on right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I also want to touch quickly on the birtherism that has arisen around Kamala, because I'm obsessed with it. Did you read that Newsweek article?
I saw enough of it.
So Newsweek ran an opinion piece by, what was his name? Dr. John Eastman, who, I'm sure this is unconnected, but ran for Attorney General against Kamala and lost. I'm sure that has nothing to do with his garbage.
No, none.
But he writes this whole like winding way that he is accusing Kamala of not being a naturalized citizen.
Which is false.
Which is absolutely false. And his reasoning is such garbage, because literally he said, we don't know that both of her parents were naturalized citizens at the time of Kamala's birth. And if they weren't both American citizens, she isn't one, which is a wild assertion. And also, like, if we want to talk about people who weren't, like, quote unquote, might not be qualified, Ted Cruz was born in Canada. John McCain was born in Panama. Like,
Mitt Romney's dad is from Mexico.
What?
Born in Mexico.
Oh, Romney was born in Mexico. My husband's making a grilled cheese. Oh, Mitt Romney's dad, Mikey.
Yeah.
Mikey's making a grilled cheese sandwich.
The thing is, no one questioned John McCain's citizenship.
I wonder why. What do you think?
Mitt Romney's citizenship. But Kamala Harris, could she? Maybe. And by the way, Newsweek, which is stupid enough to run that article, has now their editor. And again, it's not the Newsweek we grew up with, where it might have been a legit publication. It's a hollow shell right now. But the editor who allowed that piece to go up has now written a piece like, excuse me, no, that thing we posted earlier that Trump has now seized on and is spreading, that is not accurate in the the same Newsweek has now posted an article saying that was all bullshit. Like, it's not true. She's totally legally qualified to be whatever, vice president.
Yeah, and the editor's note reads like as if this Eastman piece got published in another outlet by mistake. Like, there's very little, I think, ownership taken to this garbage that they've put out, which of course Trump seized on. Like, okay, can I just read this? Because it's fucking wild. The language of Article 2 is that one must be a natural-born citizen. The original Constitution did not define citizenship, but the 14th Amendment does, and it provides that, quote, all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. And then he goes on to posit that because her dad is a Jamaican citizen, or has dual citizenship, and I think she technically does too, because she has dual citizenship, that means she's not qualified. It's like subject to complete jurisdiction, not merely a partial jurisdiction, such as that which applies to anyone temporarily sojourning in the United States. Like, it's the wildest string of like legalese I have ever seen. It is sound and fury signifying nothing. It's garbage.
I want to piggyback on that. There is a candidate for Congress who's running for John Lewis's old seat, but it's the Republican running for John Lewis's old seat, meaning she will lose in a landslide. But she is their candidate. Her name is, I want to make sure I get that right, Angela Stanton King is her name. But here's what she typed in, because she's black, and she wants to call out Kamala Harris for not being really black. And how did she do it? Kamala Harris married a white man. She loves white men. She was also sworn in by Joe Biden as an Indian, whatever that's supposed to mean. And so she says very sarcastically, this is such a win for Black America. I know they're proud. Then she follows up, Black America, is this your queen? And it's a picture of Kamala Harris with her Indian mother saying, like, I'm no genius, but I've been around black folks all my life, and this ain't it. She has the red dot and everything. That's
fuck.
That's what the Republicans are running with.
Is that woman black?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That is not a great.
He's like the diamond in black. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe invalidating people's cultural identity is not the way to go if you're also a minority, but like, I don't know. You can speak for that. You're a minority. I'm white.
No, like if you're a mix of two things, you're a mix of two things. You're not you're not literally half of one, therefore you're not fully one of your identities. You're just multiple identities. I
have a theory that conservative people are incapable of like grayscale thinking and only think in terms of black and white.
Yeah.
So the fact that
she's not allowed to say she's Indian when she's also making claims to be black. Like, dude, she's both. It's not a math problem here.
Right. That's exactly right. Like, and I think that's just an important thing for us always to take of like, just because I support Joe Biden and support Kamala Harris does not mean that I am uncritical about them. Like, those two things aren't the same thing. I can be critical about something I like and love. Like, I kind of like our country at this point, but I'm highly fucking critical of it because I think it could be better.
And as many people have pointed out, like, she has Indian heritage. That's true. Her father's Jamaican. That's true. When she's driving on the road and she's not a senator, she's black.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you
like
code switch all the time. Exactly. And it's the idea that she is not fully one or the other because she's both is just idiotic. You can be both. And at sometimes, depending on what you look like on the outside and depending on what situation you're in, you may say you are one thing rather than the other. Barack Obama was obviously half and half, but in practice and the way people looked at him, he was a black man. Like,
which nobody ever says that to a white person. Like, I'm 50% Italian, but I'm also a quarter Irish. And if I told somebody, oh yeah, I'm Irish, and they found out I was half Italian, they would never invalidate my entire identity by saying like, oh, you said you were Irish, but I see you're you're also Italian. Ha, caught you.
Right.
Like, not a thing anybody would ever say to a white person.
Conservatives see Kamala Harris, like that dress that was like black or yellow. Like, it has to be one or the other. It can't possibly be both.
Right.
There's only one answer to them, and you have to agree with them no matter what. No, dude, it can be both. It just depends.
Can I ask for your favorite take on Kamala Harris? Number one is she's not black. She's not African American. She's Jamaican. Or number two, no, there's more, Hammett. Not Asian. She's Indian.
Oh, which one's better? God.
Because they're both pretty bad.
They are both pretty bad. Anyone who has to ask the question, like, they know nobody who fits either one of those descriptions. Like, because you wouldn't ask it if you knew someone who's had to face that thing. Like, on surveys, I've had to say I'm Asian, even though if you ask me, like, what are you? It's either South Asian or Indian. Like, I don't say the word Asian. Is it technically true? Yeah, it's technically true. But again, it's a more cultural thing, and like, what situation am I in than anything else?
Wait. South Asian or I've heard
South
West
Asian.
What is that?
I've never heard West Asian, but South Asian applies to Indians.
Okay.
Like
Indian Pakistanis.
Yeah, I think so. At least I've heard them use it. Yeah. But yeah, it's just one of those, like, there's a difference between what we call ourselves, what description we use. It doesn't negate anything. And again, it's a stupid question asked in the first place because who the hell cares? Because as Biden even said, and I know it was a script and I know he was just kind of reading it, but like, by picking her and to allow all those young black, brown girls to say, like, she looks like me, maybe I could do that. That is a big deal. And that matters. And like to try to mathematically figure out which one she really is defeats whatever you are trying to accomplish is just a stupid endeavor in the first place.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's been a truly wild last few days. I'm already exhausted. November is so far away. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, don't worry, because none of us will have the chance to vote by the time November rolls around.
Oh my God, the USPS. I'm just... And he said it. Trump said it. He said,
I know, he just said it out loud.
He said the quiet part out loud that he's defunding the post office so people can't vote by mail. Like, what? I don't know. I don't know.
Tell people at your white people meeting to stop it.
I hate the white people meeting. I actually do have a white people meeting. Ooh, that's not a great look.
Call the wine club, Jessica. It's all right.
I think you'll appreciate this. So I was out of work for a long time. Illinois unemployment insurance was like giving me the runaround. And finally last week I got through to them, cleared up there was like a glitch that they thought I didn't qualify. They're like, no, you definitely did. And so I got, my stimulus check, and it was like a chunk of money that I'm not used to having all at once. And I went directly to Binny's over my wine rack. And then yesterday I went to the dispensary and did that thing. And like, I just enjoy being Republicans' worst nightmare, that I use my state aid on booze and drugs. And it just makes me sleep better at night to know that I am just somebody's worst nightmare. Makes me feel very good. Is that it?
I'm done.
Okay. Before we plug everything, to start the plugs, I guess, I was on a podcast called Media Evil. It is a medieval pop culture podcast. It's hosted by my friend Sarah Ift Decker. And she is a medievalologist. Don't know. She's got like a doctorate in medieval studies. And so she watches media about medieval times and then discusses them from a modern viewpoint, from a like quality of movie viewpoint, and also from a like how realistic in terms of medieval stuff is it. So I was on that. We watched Army of Darkness, which is the third in the Evil Dead series, when Ash travels back in time to medieval times. And we talked about it. And we had thoughts about it. It was so much fun to record. She's so smart and funny. And she said it is going to be posted next Saturday, the 22nd. So it's media, MEDIA -evil, EVAL, like medieval. And it's on iTunes. It's very good. I'd recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool.
All right. What do you have to plug, bud?
Nothing. You know what I'm spending my tomorrow doing when I'm supposed to be watching my kids? I am doing a crossword tournament called Lollapuzzoola.
Nerd!
That's right. It's not too late to sign up if you're hearing this on Friday. I have no connection to it, but...
Dude, you almost took a minute to do today's mini crossword puzzle.
I had a distraction of sorts.
Yeah? You're not just an idiot like me?
No, nah.
You beating me every day on the mini crossword puzzle and Ross Blatcher beating me every week on Words with Friends. I really need to get dumber friends.
Well, I'm 100% Asian.
So you can find us at patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast if you like what we're doing. Oh, Mikey, good news. My husband, who's like a former like cool 80s, 90s skater kid, discovered that there is a Christian skateboarding movie. Wow. And he demanded that we get drunk and watch that. So that will probably happen this week. And so that'll go up in the bonus feed. And hey, thank you everybody for supporting the show. Like, I don't know that we make it clear enough. Like, your support makes a huge difference, and it's meant that we have been able to continue doing this through all of our other obligations. So you can find me at you do.
I'm at Hemant Mehta on Twitter. Go to friendlyatheist.com for news stories.
I'm Blueberry, BLUEBURIE. You can always email us at friendlyatheistpodcast@gmail.com. Hey, shout out to, I think her name was Jackie. She wrote us a really lovely email yesterday, I think. Anyway, it was really great and it made my whole day. I have to go on to iTunes.
While you find that, be back next week. I know the convention is next week, so I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. I know I will have some stuff to talk about when it comes to the Democratic platform, and hopefully we'll see what other news comes next week.
Cool. So I'm reading a 5-star review each week. except for the weeks that I forget. This one I did screen grab and send to my parents for the official record. The title is Jessica Isn't Annoying. It's from Art and CC 1970. Anyone who criticizes Jessica can go, I assume fuck, it's F*** themselves. I can't think of anyone I'd rather have a drink with because I won't have to worry about keeping the conversation going. I could just sit back, listen to her rant, which would be amazing. I do allow other people to talk, friend. I think people who ridicule her don't get her. She's over the top, but in a good way. All right. She doesn't take herself too seriously. She knows she's white AF and laughs about it as well when Hammond pokes fun at her. Oh, and Hammond is cool too. Great podcast, y'all. I'm always excited when a new one comes out. Love y'all.
Sweet. Thank you.
That was very nice and made me laugh a whole lot.
All right, we'll talk.
It isn't annoying, like tattooed across my back because
oh my God,
I need to be reminded I'm not annoying. Loud.
I like it.
All right. Cool. Well, we will talk
to you next week. Bye, everyone.